Okay, so picture this. You're at the store, you see that steak labeled grass-fed, you pay a bit extra, but then you get this little nagging feeling, right? Like, maybe you just bought a regular steak that's wearing a tiny little green cape.
Yeah, that feeling, that's pretty common. It's where good intentions bump up against, well, the reality of big agriculture.
Exactly. So today we're diving into the meat industry's labeling game. It feels like it's built for profit, maybe not so much for, total honesty. And if you think you know what grass-fed means, well, let's just say your definition probably only covers less than 1% of the beef sold in the US.
Oh.
Seriously.
This whole deep dive is really about transparency, or maybe the serious lack of it, and how we get that tender marbled beef onto our plates. We're going to look at these loopholes that let companies slap grass-fed on the package, even when the animal's last few months were, well, anything but grazing in a field.
Okay, let's get into it. The confusion, it sort of starts with the government just dropping the ball. Back in 2016, the USDA basically said, defining grass-fed, too much work. And poof, they just dropped the official standard. Gone.
Right, just like that. So now it's mostly an honor system.
Which sounds quaint. Adorable, even.
Yeah. When billions are on the line, honor system feels a little optimistic. The loophole works because, technically all cows start out eating grass, right?
Okay, yeah, as calves.
Exactly. But the label often ignores that critical final stage, maybe the last 3, sometimes 6 months before processing. That's when they're often moved to feedlots, confined spaces, and their diet changes completely to, bulk them up fast.
But wait, if the USDA stepped back, didn't some industry groups try to fill the gap? Like the American Grass-Fed Association. Are their labels any better?
Yes. That's actually super important for you, the shopper. Those third-party certifications, especially the ones that explicitly say 100% grass-fed, those do mean something specific. We'll circle back to that.
Right.
But when you just see plain old grass-fed on, say, a big brand in the supermarket, chances are that animal was finished on grain and other cheap stuff.
For those last crucial months.
Right. And that's how you get over 99% of beef falling outside that truly grass-finished category.
Wow. And this lack of clarity, it doesn't just stop at what they ate, does it? It goes international, too. It's like buying a souvenir T-shirt that says Made in America, but it was actually made somewhere else, and they just stitched the tag on here.
That's a pretty good analogy. We used to have this rule, cool country of origin labeling for beef and pork, but it got revoked.
Revoked.
So now beef from, say, Australia or Brazil can be imported, maybe just cut up or packaged here in the U.S.
And then they can legally label it product of the U.S.
Bingo. Which makes tracing where your food actually came from incredibly difficult. Think about food safety recalls.
Oh, yeah. That's a nightmare. If there's an issue, how do you even track it back if it's labeled U.S. but could be from anywhere with different standards?
Exactly. It really undermines accountability in the whole global supply chain. It's all hidden behind that simple label.
And it sort of explains how you end up with, well, let's talk burger math. This is kind of wild.
Well,
A single fast food hamburger patty. It can contain meat from over 100 different cows.
100.
Think about that. 100 different life stories, different feedlots, maybe different countries, all ground up together. You're basically buying the average cow, not, a cow.
And that blending, that need for standardization, it all feeds back into that finishing diet. The goal there requires it.
Right. Let's switch gears to the diet itself. Because why do they do all this? Why the labels, the feedlots? Well, we seem to really, really like our meat fatty and tender. That marbling, right? Melts in your mouth. But that extreme tenderness, it comes from inactivity. Less work for the muscle means less tough connective tissue, less collagen.
So we've basically engineered for maximum laziness to get that fork tender result.
Yeah, and to get that rapid weight gain without movement, you need the cheapest, highest calorie feed possible.
Which leads to the question, what exactly are they feeding these animals in the feedlots during those final months?
It's definitely not like a nice bucket of whole grains they'd munch on naturally. You might think corn, and it is corn related, but
Yeah.
it's corn that's already done another job.
Right. It's often a substance called DDGS, stands for Dried Distillers Grain with Solubles.
Okay, DDGJ. What is that, basically?
So think about ethanol production. They take corn, pull up the starch to make fuel,
Uh-huh.
and what's left over is this high-protein, energy-dense residue, DDGS. It's very effective for putting weight on animals fast because that energy is concentrated.
So it's useful, nutritionally dense,
Hmm.
but it's basically the leftovers, the waste stream from making fuel.
Pretty much. And the corn used for ethanol isn't usually sweet corn. It's typically inedible GMO field corn, dent corn, often grown with glyphosate.
Okay, so they make the fuel and the leftover stuff, the byproduct, maybe even toxic waste, depending on how you look at it.
That's what gets fed to the cow.
It's processed, it's subsidized, and yeah, it becomes cheap animal feed. It's this perfect economic loop where nothing goes to waste, except maybe, you could argue, the animal's natural diet and health.
And why this specific stuff, DDGS?
Simple economics. Because of subsidies, it's incredibly cheap. Roughly $150 per metric ton.
Wow.
Which lets the feedlots hit their main target. Slap on, say, 600 pounds of extra weight, fast and cheap, for maximum profit.
Okay, but 600 pounds that fast. The animal basically can't move, right? The whole system needs them to be still.
Stillness is key.
Let's try an analogy for the space they get. Think about parking your car. A normal parking spot is, what, maybe 128 square feet? Something like that?
Sounds about right. Now, imagine a big cow, maybe 1,500 pounds, living in one of those crowded, indoor, closed feedlots. That animal might only get 24 square feet of space.
24. That's tiny. That means you could cram, what, 6 full-grown cows into the space of one sedan? That's the math. It's literally designed to prevent movement, keep them eating.
And even the outdoor open feedlots aren't exactly spacious, are they?
Not really. Maybe 150 square feet there. Still just barely more than that parking spot. It really makes you think about where that tenderness on your plate comes from. The cost isn't just monetary.
Yeah. And living packed in like that, under stress, probably not very clean.
No.
They must need medication, right? Just to survive it, let alone grow.
Oh, absolutely. That cheap feed mix isn't just DDGS and some basic vitamins. There's usually a pharmaceutical cocktail mixed in.
Cocktail. Okay, like what?
2 big ones usually show up.
Yeah.
First, there's monensin.
Monensin.
It's an antibiotic. But its main use in feedlots isn't fighting sickness. It's promoting weight gain. It just helps them pack on pounds more efficiently.
An antibiotic for weight gain. So even beef that might technically meet some loose grass-fed definition could still have had antibiotics.
Oh, yeah. It's so common that unless the label specifically clearly says no antibiotics ever or something similar, you should probably assume they got them, especially in feedlots.
Okay. And the second drug?
The second one is often a class of drugs called beta-agonists.
Beta-agonist. Sounds intense.
It kind of is. It mimics adrenaline. Its whole purpose is to stimulate muscle growth, really pile on lean mass, maybe an extra 30 pounds, right at the very end before processing.
Wow. Just forcing more growth chemically. And does it stay in the meat? Does it affect us?
Well, that's where it gets interesting and maybe a little concerning. There are studies suggesting that residues, or maybe the effects on the animal system, could potentially impact humans.
Yeah.
Some research has linked consuming meat from animals given beta-agonists to increased feelings of anxiety in people.
Seriously. So wanting that super cheap, super tender steak, which you only get through these, chemical shortcuts, might actually give you a side order of jitters.
It's a potential connection that's being looked at. It highlights the trade-offs, right? Prioritizing rapid, cheap growth often involves things we might not be comfortable with if we knew the whole story.
Yeah. Okay, so pulling this all together, what does this actually mean for someone standing in the grocery store just wanting good quality meat?
It means, fundamentally, that if you care about an animal truly being grass-fed, living its whole life outdoors, eating forage, right up until the end, you have to ignore that simple, unqualified grass-fed label.
Just ignore it, because it's basically meaningless now.
Pretty much, yeah. Since the USDA standard was dropped, it's too vague, too easily applied to animals finished on grain and DDGS and feedlots.
So what should you look for?
You need to look for the explicit phrase, 100% grass-fed, often paired with grass-finished. That's the key distinction. Usually it'll come with a third-party certification seal too, like the American Grass-Fed Association we mentioned.
Right, 100% grass-fed. Got it. And yeah, that stuff usually costs more.
It does cost more, absolutely. But you're paying for a different system. You're likely supporting smaller farms, avoiding that whole industrial feedlot system with the subsidized waste product feed, the crowding, the routine drugs.
You're paying for the animal to actually live like a cow, basically.
In a way, yes. The current market pushes hard towards the cheapest option, but that cheapest steak comes packaged with all these intense efficiency methods and chemical inputs.
Okay, so we've kind of pulled back the curtain on the label, looked at the frankly weird diet based on ethanol waste and the tiny spaces designed for cheap tenderness. It makes you think, if this whole dominant system relies on subsidized trash, forced stillness, and drugs just to make meat cheap and grow fast, maybe the question isn't just is this really grass-fed? Maybe it's not that, which will use my cat. When you buy that standard cheaper steak, are you actually buying beef? Or are you just buying a really efficient, slightly unsettling economic equation?